What is up, guys? So I got the request to check out some budget flagship phones that are around 400 to 500 bucks. Most of these are going to be all under 500 bucks. So instead of picking 800 and $1,000 flagship phones, these flagship phones are still really great for today. All right, so the first phone is the LG V50 5G. So this phone comes in at $400 brand new. All links will be down below, and this is an awesome phone. If you haven't seen all of my videos on them, be sure to check it out on the channel. So this has a very premium design, of course, aluminum frame, glass back. It is IP68 dust and water resistant, and it just feels really good in the hand. I love the flat camera design on this phone as well. You do have a very nice POLED display. It's a 6.4-inch display. It is a 1440p display, 538 for the PPI. You also have the Snapdragon 855 and Adreno 640 paired with Android 10 on here. This phone is a beast in performance. It's extremely smooth. Is one of the things I really love about this phone. If you're a gamer, this will blow through pretty much any game, Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG, whatever. I do have a gaming test if you want to check that out, and it's just an awesome phone. So you do have micro SD support, 128 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM on the base model. You also have some pretty decently loud stereo speakers on here, which is nice. You have the 3.5mm DAC with the quad DAC on there as well. You also have NFC for your mobile payments. You have a physical fingerprint scanner on the back, which is very fast, and you have some very good cameras on here. So you have a triple camera setup. It's a 12 megapixel wide, a 12 megapixel telephoto, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. You also have 4K 30 or 60 FPS video, and you also have a dual camera setup. So you have a 8 megapixel standard and a 5 megapixel wide for group selfies and stuff like that, which is always neat. You also have 1080p video for the front. As you can see from the photos, very good color signs, dynamic range, detail. It's one of my favorite cameras to take pictures on. And do remember, this is one of the cheaper 5G flagship smartphones, which is something that I really love. Now, battery life is also really great on this phone as well. You have a 4000 milliamp battery with 18-watt fast charging. You also have wireless charging as well at 10 watts. And if you haven't seen my drain test, you get around 8 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time. So that is really good. All day battery life, if not 2 days if you're a light user. So this is an excellent cheaper 5G flagship phone. Next is the Pixel 4, right around $339 on Amazon right now, and this is an awesome phone. I really enjoyed this smartphone. So this also has a premium design as well. It has a glass back, aluminum frame. Feels really solid in the hand. This is one of the kind of like rare compact phones now. It does have a 5.7-inch display. It's a POLED display as well. It's 1080p 444 for the PPI, and this is also a 90 hertz display, so it is very smooth when you're scrolling through social media apps or just scrolling in general. It is a really nice experience. This phone is also IP68 dust and water resistant. One of the things about Pixel phones that people love is the pure stock Android experience, which is always nice. So this phone is just really fast, very clean UI. So if you're a stock Android fan, you're obviously gonna love this option. So you do have the Snapdragon 855, Adreno 640. Again, this is a great performer when you're playing video games. So whatever you want to play, you can play on high. Now this phone does get a little hotter when playing games, so you might want to pick up a case for it. But it's not super hot. But that is one thing I noticed in my gaming test. So you do not have micro SD support. Unfortunately, you get 64 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM on here. You actually have some very nice stereo speakers on here. They have a lot of bass and depth to them, which is something that I like. This phone has no headphone jack. You also have NFC on here as well as some very good Face ID, which is another highlight with this phone. Very fast. You do have some excellent cameras on here. You have a 12.2 megapixel sensor and a 16 megapixel telephoto. No ultra wide though, which kind of sucks, but you do have 4K video. You also have an 8 megapixel selfie camera that shoots 1080p. The cameras on here are just straight up amazing. The best camera, on this list. So when I gave this phone to my parents and they went to take photos and posted it on Facebook, everyone thought this was like a DSLR. It was just really, really good. So this is just an impressive camera, as you can see from the photos. Just great color science, great depth of field, detail. It's just really awesome cameras on here. So you do have a 2,800 milliamp battery with 18-watt fast charging, wireless charging as well. Battery life is respectable on here. It's not crazy good. You get around 7 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time. If I remember, I did drain it at 90 hertz. So it's pretty good. It's not bad. So this is definitely a great phone if you want a good camera smartphone. Next is my daily driver still, is the OnePlus 7 Pro. So if you don't know, this is the phone that I'm always using, and you'll see why in a second. But this phone is around 430 bucks right now. It's very cheap, even cheaper on eBay actually. So this is just an awesome phone, very premium design, aluminum frame, glass back, just feels really great in the hand. I love the look of this phone. So the highlight with this phone is the full screen 6.7-inch Fluid AMOLED display. Is 90 hertz. It's 1440p, 516 for the PPI. It is just a beautiful uninterrupted display. No notch, no punch hole. It does have the curves, which I've grown used to it. I don't really get accidental touches anymore with this phone, but this is just a beautiful display. So if you watch a lot of movies, YouTube videos, whatever you're doing on this phone, it is just going to be an awesome experience. It's very, very immersive. Just feels like you're holding a screen in your hand, is the best way to describe it. So one of the best things about this phone is the Oxygen OS. The skin on top of here is very fast. You get a lot of security patches and updates on top of Android 10, and it is just an awesome OS. You can customize it really well, and I just really love it. So you also have the Snapdragon 855 and again Adreno 640. Basically, if you're trying to game on here, this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the better phones because of the display. It's just an immersive experience, and also it's just a big display, right? So whatever you're trying to play, like all of these phones on this list, you will be able to play no problem. This phone does not have micro SD support, which sucks, but you have 128 gigs and 6 gigs of RAM. So on the base model, if you want the higher gig model, it goes up to 256. You do have, or do not have, a headphone jack on here, which kind of sucks, but I've grown used to it. You also have some very good stereo speakers on this phone, very loud, has some pretty good bass. So you also have NFC for mobile payments. The fingerprint scanner is still extremely fast on here. It's built into the display, and it is lightning fast. One of my favorite things about this phone. You do have very respectable cameras on here, a 48 megapixel wide, 8 megapixel telephoto, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. You get 4K 30 or 60 FPS. This is very good cameras. They've updated the software, and you get really good shots. So as you can see from these photos, color science is good, detail is good. So I was really happy with the cameras, and you can also have Gcam put on here and get some really, really good shots out of here. So you have a pop-up camera that's 60 megapixels. That is very respectable. It takes good photos. So for photos, I really like this phone too. It's very good. You also have very good battery life, a 4,000 milliamp battery with very fast charging on here, 30-watt fast charging. This phone does not have wireless charging though, unfortunately, but you get very good screen on time, around 8 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time. So very, very good. Again, this is a more media focused phone for you guys that are really into watching content. Next is the iPhone X. So I still really like this phone. It's my favorite iPhone. I had the iPhone 11, and I just think this is a better deal because of the display. Right now it's around $440 right now on Amazon. I just think this is super solid. So you have a very premium design. I still think it looks really good. It's a glass back, stainless steel frame on here. It's IP67, dust and water resistant. Still looks pretty good. So you have a 5.8-inch super OLED Retina display on here, which looks very nice. This is why I like this phone over the 11. It's because you have an OLED. The colors just look nice, and it just overall looks like a better display to me. It is 1125 by 2436, so it is a 720 720p plus display. You also have 458 for the PPI. Now you do have that big notch, but most people who buy iPhones don't really mind it. But you have iOS 13.6.1. It will get iOS 14, and honestly this should get, you know, iOS 15, 16, if not 17. Still a very fast phone with the Apple A11 chip. It is blazing fast. So again, if you're trying to do gaming on this phone handles it like a breeze. It's really nice. So you do not have micro SD card support, as well as 64 gigs of internal and 3 gigs of RAM. iOS handles this phone well, so you really rarely get any stutters or hiccups on this phone. So you do have stereo speakers, which have a lot of depth to them, a lot of bass to them, so I was really happy with that. This phone of course has NFC for Apple Pay, and you also have still some pretty good cameras, maybe not the best on this list. That's where this phone kind of aged compared to the 11. You have a 12 megapixel wide and 12 megapixel telephoto. There's no ultra wide. You also have 4K video, which is actually really good. I think the iPhone still takes the best video. You also have a pretty respectable 7 megapixel standard, great for FaceTime and stuff like that. Now the downside to this phone is it's probably going to be the weakest battery life out of all these phones. You have a 2716 milliamp battery, 15 watt fast charging, wireless charging on board as well. Battery life is decent on here. You're looking at 5 to 6 hours of screen on time depending on how you use it. So if you're a light user, you can, you know, easily get through the day with this phone. But if you're a gamer, you're going to be charging it up most definitely, but this is still a super solid option. Next is the LG G8. This might be the best deal on the list as far as money wise, because you can pick one of these up renewed for around 250 bucks, and it is a sweet deal. Again, one of the best deals on here if you're on a strict budget. It is just awesome. So think of it as like a mini LG, you know, V50. So it has the pretty much the same design, aluminum frame, glass back. You also have IP68 dust and water resistant. The same P OLED display. It's a 6.1 inch display, 1440p, 564. Just a beautiful display, very color accurate. You have the notch up top, but this is just a very nice display. One of my favorite things about this phone. You also have Android 10 on here, of course, with the Snapdragon 855, Adreno 640. Again, for gaming, this will pretty much blow through anything, Call of Duty, Fortnite, whatever. This is definitely going to be a great gaming phone for you. You also have micro SD support, 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM. You have some very good speakers on here. You also have the 3.5mm DAC with the quad DAC, so that is really awesome. So for music fans, if you are really into music, you're going to really be looking at these LG phones. You also have some very good cameras on here, a dual camera setup, 12 megapixel standard, 16 megapixel ultra wide. You get 4K, 8 megapixel selfie camera at 1080p. If you haven't seen my videos, please check them out. But as you can see, beautiful cameras on here, great detail, great colors. I just really enjoy taking photos on here. Of course, this phone has NFC, and you also have some very good battery life, a 3500 milliamp battery with 21 watt fast charging with wireless charging. And again, you get around 8 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time. So a very good pick, one of my favorites again on the list. So thanks for watching. I will catch you guys in the next one.